Welcome to another episode of Hard Talk with me, Bernard. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this. In today's episode, tutaangalia kuhusu how we acquire and eliminate psychological disturbances in our lives. And I'm going to use an onion analogy where basically an onion is made up of so many layers, but eventually tunaweza kuzipeel one by one. Even in our own lives, we accumulate a lot of layers over years. So many things that has happened to us, and those eventually will define who we are. How do we do that? How do we eliminate those layers? And again, how do we now make sure that we never go back to the people that we used to be? Onion analogy on how we eliminate psychological disturbances in our lives. Stay tuned for more of this. Welcome to another episode of Hard Talk with me, Bernard, and remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Leo nataka tuangalie how we acquire and eliminate psychological disturbances in our lives. Well, what are psychological disturbances? Over the years, we're accumulating so many layers that eventually define who we are. Whatever adversity, whatever challenge that you're going through, unaweza refer to those challenges, to those adversities as psychological disturbances. How did we acquire them? And how now do we eliminate them? And I think the biggest thing, the biggest challenge that we have is how to eliminate them and how now to maintain the new person that we have become. Because eliminating them is one thing, but how now do we maintain the new person? How do we ensure that we never go back to the people, to the person that we used to be? That is now what we talk about when we say, ndio tuliacquire psychological disturbances na tumezi eliminate, but now how do we come up with behavior that foster the new person that we have become? Stay tuned for more of this, and always remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this. Welcome back. So over the years, whatever it is that you are going through, umeweza kueliminate na umeweza kuovercome. How now do you come up with behaviors that fosters the new you? How do you now come up with behaviors? How do you put up measures that ensure that you never go back to the person that you used to be? Because again, kabla nimesema, overcoming something is very difficult and it's very easy. It all depends on a person, and it all depends on whatever it is that you are going through. But now, how do you maintain and how do you put up measures that ensure that you never go back to the person that you used to be? How we acquire and how we eliminate psychological disturbances in our lives. And a very good example is the onion analogy, where basically an onion is made up of so many layers, and eventually tunapeeling one by one, and eventually tunafika to the core. Even in our own lives, to accumulate layers all over. Over the years, to accumulate so many layers in our lives. But how do we ensure that we peel these layers and eventually reach your real orgasmic self? Now, to share it there, we cannot leave you vulnerable. Let's not cover up with something. In many settings, they call it building armor. And it is always good to ensure that your armor is always activated. Your real orgasmic self, the person that you are, your true self. Now, how do we come up with measures to ensure that you never go back to the person that you used to be? So basically, we are going to look at a couple of points. As usual, come on, watch my episode, no semanga, like we are just having a talk. Kila mtu out there is going through a challenge, but eventually what matters the most is how we come up on the other side. So how do we do? How do we do it? How do we ensure that you never go back to the person, to the people that you used to be, to that calling that you used to be? For example, I'm coming from an addictions world. Now, how do I come up with measures that ensure that I never go back to the person that I used to be? Well, the first thing that you need to do is establish and acknowledge whatever it is that you are going through. Put a name on it, label it, peg it. I'm coming from an addiction world. So, in my end, I'm going to peg addiction. I'm going to put a name to it and call it an addiction. So, whenever you put a name to whatever it is that you are going through, utakuwa cautious and utakuwa identify even when it creeps in. So, challenges adversities you go through, it is always good to put a name, a label on it. The next thing, we have a plan. On the other side now, and a very good example when Leicester City won the EPL, kila mtu alikuwa it looked like a script from a Hollywood movie, but it was they found it very hard to maintain the league, to maintain that title. Again, come up with a plan. The new you. You have been delivered from that adversity, that challenge that you're going through. The new you now. How do you come up with a plan that actually ensures that you never go back to who you used to be? And also, in life, no matter what hard life imekudeal with, because there is another scholar alikuwa anasema actually life is like a game of cards, and it does not matter what hand you have been dealt, but how do you play your cards. Come up with a plan. I also read that life without a plan is just a dream. Come up with a plan that supports the new you, and come up with a plan that is custom made just for you. Inaweza kuwa inawakia best. The next thing that you do is to acknowledge that people do not decide their future. They decide their habits. And their habits eventually decide their future. That thing that you are doing right now, as far as maintaining the new person, as far as fostering new behaviors, as far as working on the new you, they will eventually decide on who you will be in future. And I always say that the best way of predicting your future is by creating it right now with good habits. What kind of habits are you fostering? What kind of habits are you instilling within you? The next thing is use I statements. Stop shifting blame. Take and assume responsibilities over your life. It is not going to be easy, but eventually it is going to be worth it. And I always say, it does not matter whatever it is that you are going through. What matters the most is how you finish that race. We know so many people ambao walianza like very low, lakini eventually saa hii because walipersevere na wakakuwa na what we call tenacity like a weed, magugu basically. Tunaambia kuna kitu inakuanga na tenacity, ama kuna kitu inakuanga na persistence, ama na roho juu kama weed. Unaendanga na ya root, unakam the next 2 days imemea. You must have tenacity like a weed, and eventually what matters the most is how come out on the other side. So stop shifting blame. Assume responsibility. Whatever it is that you are going through, own it. The next thing that you need to do is get out of your own way. There is a very good book by John Mason. Like sometimes in life, all we need to do is give ourselves a conversational slap. Get out of your own way. Because in life, most of the time, we are our biggest obstacles. The only thing that is standing in between you and the greatness, in between you and the new person that you want to become, is you. Learn to get out of your own way. And how do you do it? Acknowledge where you are coming from and where you want to be. And then look at what is standing in the middle of that. And I always tell people, you want to get from point A to point B, what matters the most is, what are you telling yourself in that journey? Unaongea kuhusu success ama kuhusu failure in that journey. Learn to get out of your own way. And inaanza yote in your mind. Nasemanga mind is a abstract, but it's a very powerful tool. What you say and what you tell yourself, that is what reveals. Last but not least, learn to turn towards instead of away. Whatever it is that you are going through, all those answers that you are seeking out there, all those questions that you have about life, the answers are with you. Well, that's today's episode of Hard Talk with me, Bernard. Remember to always like and subscribe for more videos like this.